Whoa. You guys just already did it. Is that our whole 7th grade group? Wow. But can we talk about the big 8th grade group? Yeah. And then the crazy, that's crazy 6th grade group. Alrighty, y'all. Tonight's going to look a little different because, you ready for this? I'm not preaching once. I'm also not preaching twice. I'm not preaching 3 times. I'm preaching 4 times. I have 4 sermons tonight. All of them are 45 minutes. Just kidding. So, tonight we are talking about Jacob and Esau. What this is going to look like is I'm going to tell you 4 stories from their life. We're kind of focusing on Jacob a little bit more, but we will talk about Esau. But we're going to read 4 stories. After each story, we're going to take time in your squads. We're going to answer questions. So we're going to be covering a lot tonight. Are you ready? I need notes. If you want to take notes, get a pen or a paper out. I will be giving you all the verses where you can go and read all of these stories. So you can ask your question to Andrew. Andrew's been waiting to have a question from you. So the first thing you need to know is we talked about Abraham. Abraham was a really cool dude. Abraham had a wife named Sarah, different than the Sarah wife that I have, okay? But he had a wife named Sarah. Abraham and Sarah have been named Isaac. Isaac had a wife too. Her name was Rebecca. It was just Rebecca. So, Isaac and Rebecca had a baby. They actually had 2 babies. Jacob and Esau are twins. You guys ever known somebody that's ever had a set of twins? Nobody. Wow. Then you obviously don't know me. So, we are going to read our first story. Oh, excuse me. Some of you want to know this information. If you want to know the full story of Jacob and Esau, it covers is from Genesis chapter 27 to chapter 49. 49. That is a lot of chapters. So, if you are this week, or I know we have spring break coming up, if you're like, man, I'm just really bored, open up Genesis, read the story. It's crazy. So, we're going to start with our first story. Story number 1 is titled, The Birth and Birthright. We are in Genesis chapter 25. This chapter starts, bless you, this chapter starts with Abraham dying. You know in the Christmas Carol, where it's like, Marley was dead to begin with. That's kind of how this chapter starts. It's like, Genesis 25, the death of Abraham. Then if you scroll all the way down to verse 19, our story starts. Here we go. This is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. I've already told you that part, okay? Rebecca's pregnant. And the Lord tells her, I'm picking up in verse 23. The Lord told her, the sons in your womb will become 2 nations. From the very beginning, the 2 nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve your younger son. And when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered that she indeed had twins. The first one was very red at birth and covered in thick hair like a fur coat. So Esau is kind of just a bear. Okay? Rawr. So they covered with thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. Then the other twin was born, get this, with his hand grasping Esau's heel. Okay? So they like grab the baby and they're like, oh. And Jacob was like, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old. Pause. Can you imagine having twins at 60? That is literally twice my age. Weird. So, it tells us the story of their birth, and then immediately tells us another story. The next verse says, as the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman. So he was a lot like me. Tough, strong. But Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay home. So this is literally Sarah and Brogan. So, Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home. But Rebekah loved Jacob. So Esau was a tough guy. Strong, covered in hair, probably had a beard at 5. He was like, hey, Dad. But Jacob was a mama's boy. Jacob was a mama's boy. Who's a mama's boy? Proudly raise your hand. Mama's boy. Okay? How many of you are like, nah, I'm dad's son? Where's my dad's son? Caleb, I was say, come on. Quinn raises her hand. So, one day when Jacob was cooking some stew, listen to this. Shh. One day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. Have you guys ever been so hungry where you feel sick and like you're going to pass out? Yeah? It's a terrible feeling. Esau said to Jacob, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. All right, Jacob replied, but trade me your rights as the firstborn. Look, I'm dying of starvation, said Esau. What good is a birthright to me now? But Jacob said, first you must swear that your birthright is mine. So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and stew. Esau ate the meal, got up, and left. And he showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. In this moment, we see Esau do something that all of us do. When you read the story, it's super easy to be like, dude, Esau's dumb. Like, how could he do that? But have you ever given something up? Something that meant something important for just a moment of pleasure? Have you ever given something up that you probably shouldn't have just because you were confused in the moment? Esau was just hungry. And he said he was starving. Like Esau didn't plan his trip out well. Because there's hungry, but this says he was starving. Do you know what a birthright is? Yeah? Well, you're going to talk about this in your squads. Because here's what I want you guys to catch. A birthright is not something just light. A birthright had a lot of meaning. It was a super important thing. And Esau gave all of that up for one meal. So I've got a couple questions for you. The first question is, why would Jacob want the birthright? Why would he want that? The second question is, what is a birthright? And then you have one more question. You're going to talk about these in your squads. The next question is, what are you sacrificing for a momentary pleasure or enjoyment? What are you giving up? Okay, leaders, make sure you have those 3 questions. We'll put the next one up in a second. Leaders, if you need to take a photo of those 2 questions. All right, go ahead and put the 3rd question up, please. There's the 3rd one. Okay, in your squads, answer those questions. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, we got to keep moving on. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. All right. Story number 2 is titled The Stolen Blessing. I know. Spoiler alert. Genesis 27 is where we find this story. One day when Isaac was old. What a rude way to start a story about your dad. One day, Dad was old. And wait, it gets worse, and was turning blind. Way to just... So, let me tell you a story. Story starts, Dad's old, can't see anything, okay? One day when Isaac was old and turning blind, he called for Esau, his older son, and said, "My son." "Yes, father." That's probably not how Esau talked. Yes, father." "I am an old man now," Isaac said. This is so bad. No old man talks like, "I am an old man now. And I don't know when I may die." That's got to be a comforting feeling. Shh, listen up. "Take your bow and quiver full of arrows and go out into the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare my favorite dish and bring it here for me to eat. Then I will pronounce the blessing that belongs to you, my firstborn son, before I die." But Rebekah overheard what Isaac had said to Esau. So when Isaac left to hunt for the wild game, she said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I overheard your father say to Esau, 'Bring me some wild game and prepare me a delicious meal. Then I will bless you in the Lord's presence before I die. Now, my son, listen to me. Do exactly as I tell you. Go out into the flocks and bring me 2 young fine goats. I'll use them to prepare your father's favorite dish. Then take the food to your father so he can eat it and bless you before he dies.' But look," Jacob says, "my brother Esau is a hairy man." This family is ruthless with each other. "What's your dad like?" "Old, blind, almost dead." "Oh, what's your mother like, or brother like?" "Oh, brother's hairy." And then listen to this. And then Jacob builds himself up. He goes, "My brother Esau is a hairy man, and my skin is smooth. What if my father touches me? He'll see that I'm trying to trick him." Esau must have been an actual bear. If just by going, "Esau, Jacob," he'll see that I'm trying to trick him, and then he'll curse me instead of blessing me. But his mother said, "Then let the curse fall on me. Do what I tell you to do." So Jacob went out, got the goats for his mom. Rebekah took them and prepared a delicious meal, just the way Isaac liked it. Then he took Esau's favorite clothes and gave them to her younger son, Jacob. She covered his arms and the smooth part of his neck with the skin of the young goats. Then, sorry, that's a little gross, huh? Yeah, sorry, this part of the story is a little bad. Then she gave Jacob the delicious meal, including freshly baked bread. So Jacob took the food to his father, and he said, "My father." "Yes, my son. Who are you, Esau or Jacob?" Jacob replied, "It's Esau, your firstborn son. I've done as you told me. Here is the wild game. Now sit up and eat it, so you can give me your blessing." Isaac said, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord God put it in my path," said Jacob. Isaac said to Jacob, "Come closer so I can touch you and make sure that you are really Esau." So Jacob went closer to his father, and Isaac touched him. "The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's," said Isaac. But he did not recognize Jacob because Jacob's hands felt hairy just like Esau. So Isaac prepares to bless Jacob. But he asks one more time, "Are you really my son Esau?" "Yes, I am," Jacob replied. Then Isaac said, "Now, my son, bring me the wild game. Let me eat it, and then I will give you my blessing." So Jacob took the food to his father, and Isaac ate it. He also drank the wine that Jacob served him. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come a little closer and kiss me, my son." So Jacob went over and kissed him. And when Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he was finally convinced, and he blessed his son. "The smell of my son is like the smell of the outdoors, which the Lord has blessed." I'm going to skip ahead to verse 30. As soon as Isaac finished blessing Jacob, and almost before Jacob left his father, Esau returned from his hunt. Esau prepared a delicious meal and brought it to his father. Then he said, "Sit up, my father, and eat my wild game so you can give me your blessing." Isaac said, "Who are you?" Esau replied, "It's your son, your firstborn son, Esau." Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably and said, "Then who just served me wild game? I have already eaten, and I blessed him before you came here. And yes, that blessing must stand." When Esau heard his father's words, he let out a loud and bitter cry. "Oh, my father, what about me? Bless me too." But Isaac said, "Your brother was here, and he tricked me. He has taken away your blessing." Esau exclaimed, "No wonder his name is Jacob, for now he has cheated me twice. First he took my rights as the firstborn, and now he has stolen my blessing. Haven't you even saved one for me?" Isaac said to Esau, "I have made Jacob your master, and I have declared that all his brothers will be his servants. I've guaranteed him an abundance of grain and wine. What is left for me to give you, my son?" Esau pleaded, "But do you only have one blessing? Please, father, bless me too." And then Esau broke down and wept. Isaac said, "You will live away from the richness of the earth, and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you decide, you will shake his yoke from your neck." From that time on, Esau hated Jacob, because their father had given Jacob the blessing. And Esau began to scheme, "I will soon be mourning my father's death. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." What are we learning about Jacob in this story? I've read 2 stories. Keep the answers quiet for a sec. One question I want you to discuss as a group is, what are we learning about Jacob? And then I'm going to give you a little assignment you have to do. And leaders, we need to be kind of quick on these questions. But you're going to have to look something up. What does the name Jacob mean? Go ahead and put that up on the screen. What does the name Jacob mean? And I want you to talk about it in your group. Go. Thirty more seconds. All right, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. It's okay. All right. This next story. I had to study the economic downturn that weddings have had on the American economy and the effects that they've had on individual marriages, and if that equals the divorce, if that follows the same pattern as the divorce rate. Exactly. What? Yeah. It was brutal, guys. And by the way, this wasn't like a group project where like one person does all the work. Each of us were graded individually, and it was 90% of your grade was based off of what you did. Only 10% was the group. So if you didn't work, you would only get a 10%. Awful. Okay? That was really hard. Can you imagine working 14 years for your wife? Now, I know some of you aren't even 14, and you're like, I don't even want a wife. You're not, or a husband. Okay? But if I met Sarah, her and I met in 2019, I would have 9 more years. 9 more years. She is totally worth it. But this is going to be a real quick relationship talk. You ready for this? If you're not willing to work for them, should you even be dating them? If they're not willing to work for you, is that the one you should pick? Now, you need to remember in this time, working for 7 years did not mean that they were dating for 7 years. Jacob waited 7 years. No dating, probably very little talking, no hugging, no touching, nothing. 7 years. If the person you're with isn't willing to wait 7 years, is that the right one? Is that a good person to pick? Now, let me ask you this. Do your friends work for 7 years before they get a girlfriend or boyfriend? False. I love middle school relationships. You know why? As soon as you start one, it breaks up. I love whenever a middle schooler's like, got a girlfriend. Like a middle school guy walks up, got a girlfriend, we're pretty serious. Yeah? What's her last name? We're not focusing on names right now. You don't know her last name, do you? No. How'd you meet? We're outside playing Foursquare. She hit the ball at me. I caught it, and I looked at her, and I went, She fell in love with me on the moment. Yeah? Yeah? What'd you guys do then? Well, I flirted with her. How'd you flirt? I threw a rock and I hit her in the face. Oh, so is she alive? I think so. We're dating. We've been dating for 25 minutes. Oh. Then the next week, I'm like, hey, you still dating that girl? Oh, no, she moved away to Africa. What? So, this is a great story for us to learn from. This is a really good story for us to learn. Jacob is a great person to follow when it comes to a relationship. He worked for it. He earned the right. He talked to her dad. Listen up. Josiah, sit up, please. He spoke to her dad. He said, I want to earn your trust. He did the right thing. So this is a real simple question in your squads. Where are you in this whole relationship journey? You might be like, I don't want anything to do with the opposite gender. If you're a guy, you might be like, I don't want a girl. If you're a girl, you might be like, boys smell bad. They will always smell bad, by the way. But maybe you're like, well, I want a girlfriend or I want to be in a relationship, but it's really hard. Where are you in this journey and how are you handling it? Go. Okay, 30 seconds. we're going to move on. Last story. Y'all, this one's the crazy one. I'm not going to tell you the title. Don't put it up yet, Morgan. This is the crazy one. Listen up. Shh. We find this in Genesis 32, but I just want you to listen. During the night, Jacob got up, took his wives and his servants and his sons and crossed the river with them. After taking them to the other side, he sent over all his possessions. This left Jacob all alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn. I want you to think for a second. Does this story not sound a little like WWE? Like Jacob's sitting there by the fire. Like, we'll just do this, okay? Jacob's sitting by the fire, just relaxing, you know. Just, that's my fire noise, okay? Shh, shh. Just, and then all of a sudden this man just shows up. Looks at Jacob. Jacob looks up and goes, "Are we about to wrestle?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." And they wrestle all night. Have you ever wrestled for more than 10 minutes without breathing heavy? You lie. None of you in this room are that in shape. Wrestling is so hard. Wrestling is so hard. They wrestled all night. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of socket. That is a cheat code. That's like the original Kung Fu Panda Wushu pinky finger hold. Okay? Literally, they're like wrestling. Jacob's like, "What's up?" And the guy goes, "Skirt." And Jacob goes, "On my hip." Okay? Then the man said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." This sounds like a Lord of the Rings movie. For the dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Hold up. Shh. Wait, hold up. Shh. "What is your name?" the man asked. He replied, "Jacob." "Your name will no longer be Jacob. From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won." "Please tell me your name," Jacob said. "Why do you want to know my name?" the man replied. Then he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of God. And he said, "I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been spared." The sun was rising as Jacob left Peniel, and he was limping because of the injury to his hip. Even today, listen to this, even today, the people of Israel do not eat the tendon near the hip socket because of what happened that night when the man strained the tendon of Jacob's hip. Jacob wrestled God. Let me say that again. Jacob wrestled God and didn't lose. Okay? So here, we could go a couple of ways with this. One way we could go with this is we could say, well, God's weak. Do you think that's the point of the story? No. Do you think if God wanted to, he could have just killed Jacob? Why? Why do we know that? Because he literally just went, skirt, and his hip went, okay? Literally. Jacob just touched, God touched Jacob's hip. And I wonder if Jacob was like standing, Jacob's like, heck, and fell. Okay? Literally, he just touched his hip. It doesn't say he like climbed on the third rope and was like, bah, 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 and jumped down. No, he just went. That's like, so you ever try to wrestle your dad and your dad's like playing and having fun and then your dad gets annoyed and pulls out the dad strength and picks you up by your pinky toe and throws you in the other room? Yeah? That's like this moment. They're like wrestling and Jacob's like, okay. And God's like, you know what? And Jacob's like, oh, my hip. And drops. My brother and I would wrestle my dad when we were growing up. And we had built this strategy where my brother, now I look back, my brother was just willing to let me die. But my brother would go, here's the deal. You go in first. And I was like, okay. And And he's like, you take on Dad. You can take him by yourself. I was 6. And I'm like, got it. That lines up here. And he goes, and then I'll come in from behind, elbow straight to the spine. And I was like, dude, brilliant plan. Not thinking that we could break my dad's back, right? So my dad and I would be wrestling, and the problem is my brother thought he was quiet and smooth. My brother would walk like this. He'd peek around the corner. He'd be like, I'm coming in. Like, I would hear him and not my dad, and then my brother would be like, no, hold up. He would sneak and then jump. So he'd be like, and my dad would notice, and I'd be like, oh, he's so dumb. And I'm losing, by the way. And my dad would be like, he. And I'm like, oh, Wes is about to die. My brother would run up, jump. My dad would just catch him in the air. And that was always the sign, we're about to lose badly, okay? Jake wrestles with God. And then what does God do? Changes his name. Real quick, how many tribes of Israel are there? Middle schoolers. How many tribes? 12. Yes. 12 tribes of Israel. The nation of Israel. About to blow your mind. How many sons does Jacob have? So when you say the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 sons of Jacob. Well, fair point. So, here's what I noticed. Listen up. Here's what I noticed when we were talking about this. You ready? Why do you think God let Jacob wrestle with him? Yeah, God did start it. Why do you think he started it? Jacob physically wrestled God. Not like an emotional thing. He physically wrestled God. When's the last time you wrestled with God about something? When's the last time you talked through something? We talk to God in the easy moments. When's the last time you did something tough? Brought like a tough conversation. There was a lot going on in Jacob's life right here. Jacob physically wrestled, but what does that look like for us today? Because here's the truth. If a random man walks in this room, please do not just go wrestling match. Okay? Okay? The leaders will jump in. We don't need Levi going, sup, wrestle right now, okay? We don't need that. Even though you got the wrestling hair, we don't need that. Andrew will be like, no, thank you. Sit down. But what does wrestling produce? Because this match changed the future of Jacob's life. Changed his name, changed everything he did. Jacob wrestles God. Okay, you're going to end in squads. I've got 2 questions for you. I've shared 4 stories with you. You've got 1 minute. What can we learn from Jacob? Or what are you taking with you this week? One of those you need to answer. Pray in your squad. And then in 1 minute, the video announcements is going to play.